So welcome back, everybody. So today we are joined by our smart guest, Zoti, who's hanging out with us today, and she is going to be demystifying the economic system. Now, the reason why we're having this show today is because the economic system as we know it is going through a transformation. And in order for us to be prepared for the changes that are coming, it's important for us to have the right information, right? We all know knowledge is power, and to be forewarned is one of the best ways to be prepared. So, Zoti is here to help us figure this out, and she's gonna just walk us through the current economic system, the way to transition, some of the modalities that can help you transition, and even some of the ways that we can all gain true freedom. And yeah, Zoti, welcome back. How you doing?
Thank you for having me again, and I am well. Thank you. No complaints to report. It is so wonderful to see you again. Awesome to be here.
Yeah. So Zoti, I think let's start with um, the basics. What is your take on the current economic system? Most countries are running on a capitalistic system. We know there are countries that run on kind of a mix and match of a socialist communism system, but most countries we know are capitalist. I could be wrong, but that's what I know from my standpoint. But walk us through that and what kind of modalities or changes you see coming in the near future, the very, very near future.
Yes. Yes. So you would be right to say that a majority of countries are running under a system of capitalism. And America, where I am, is no different. We are definitely a capitalist society. But what tends to happen when you're looking at a capitalistic society is that you have something called oligarchy, which begins to form. And a whole group of oligarchs running things never it doesn't tend to end well for the people, for the collective. And an oligarch, if anyone doesn't know, is just a small group of really, really, really disgustingly wealthy individuals, okay, is what that is. And so an oligarchy is typically formed when you're dealing with a capitalistic society. And this can be problematic. When we're talking about the structure economically in America, we currently have something called the US dollar. And the US dollar is how we barter, meaning that's how we trade and services for goods and so on and so forth. We're using this dollar. The dollar, however, is indeed a fiat currency, meaning that there is no intrinsic value. It's not backed by anything. The original standard here in America for bartering was the gold standard, is how people did things. We utilized the minerals of the earth, which is which does have intrinsic value, which is the opposite of it being fiat. So gold and silver coming from the earth is what makes it valuable. So in the early 1920s, I want to say, they stopped the gold standard that America had, and they went and said, "Hey, to the American people, give us all your gold, and we're going to go, hoard it in this place called Fort Knox, and then we're going to create these notes, these Federal Reserve notes, and we're going to give them out. So it's okay to give us your gold. We're going to create this fake paper, and we're going to give it out." And this wasn't a choice. This was a command. Okay, they made the people give up their gold to go put it in Fort Knox, which currently, at the moment, the current administration here in America are saying that they're going to go do an audit of Fort Knox to see if the gold is actually even there, that they took all these years ago from the people. So we'll wait to see how that turns out. But since then, we've had this dollar system, and when you have a system that is fiat, which no intrinsic value, you have a capitalistic society. You have these oligarchs, this oligarchy that forms typically underneath a capitalistic society. That is a potion for gross gaps in wealth. So what we're dealing with here in America, and I think globally, is wealth gaps that can only be explained by one thing, and that is massive corruption and hoarding of the money. So I believe that with, as we see throughout history, all of the empires that were built off of unstable grounds have fallen. All fiat currencies in history have failed. All of them fail eventually. So when we're looking at the current economic system in relation to the dollar, for example, you would see all over the world that there are countries who are divesting from the dollar. So China, Russia are divesting from the dollar, which means a couple of things. It means that, for one, this looks a lot like history repeating itself in terms of an empire being built on sloppy grounds and greed, and it eventually falling, and then a new one coming in. And it also points us to it leads us to the question of what would be the outcome if this indeed happened. If we come to a situation where the dollar is no longer going to be utilized, what would be the next move? Well, if we look at the debate, I mean, not the debate, the election that just took place here in America, right? There was two candidates, right? A woman and a man, all right? And both of those candidates took what as payments for their donations? Like when they were doing, when people go around campaigning and stuff like that, and they take donations from their constituents and whatnot. Usually you are used to hearing people donate, okay, I'll give you a couple million, I'll give you 50,000, whatever they give. There's usually a dollar amount. This election, they took Bitcoin. Okay, both of them took Bitcoin as donations for their candidacy when they were running for office. Both of them took Bitcoin. Okay, both of them did. The current person in this administration here in America is made his own coin, his own cryptocurrency coin. There is a cryptocurrency coin, if you guys don't know, called the Trump coin right now. Okay, I wouldn't recommend it, but there is a coin called the Trump coin. What else do we see here? We see his vice president. People say that Vance is the vice president here in America, but really it appears, I don't even know what Vance looks like, to be honest. I think that the vice president truly is really Musk. And if we're looking at Musk, we'll see that he's also heavily connected and involved with cryptocurrency. Bring up cryptocurrency to say that, in my view, it is highly likely that eventually we will transition, not just here in America, but we will transition globally to a decentralized digital form of currency. That's what right now it is centralized, meaning you have to go to your bank, a central place. Everybody goes to a central point to go get their money and do their transactions. It's going through a central point. Decentralizing the currency is essentially what cryptocurrency is. It's decentralizing the currency and how you transact from person to person. So I believe that it's very possible that we will be moving into a decentralized digital currency soon. And one more thing I'll say about it is that Russia has already done this. The difference is Russia is being I think they're being more transparent with their people about what they intend to do than America is, because I don't think that the people here in America want the people to win with them. Okay, because there's a lot of money that can be made in cryptocurrency. But I don't think that these oligarchs, they're oligarchs for a reason, okay, because they want to hoard everything. These oligarchs don't necessarily want everybody to win. So over here in America, they're hush-hush about the potential for the transition to decentralized currency, because they don't want you to be an early investor and to win, okay, meaning to profit from what they plan to do. China also has already enacted a digital currency system. There's countries all over this world who are enacting digital currency systems. So I think that it is very likely that we are moving into a decentralized currency system, and that people should definitely start looking into what cryptocurrency is, how it works, and to really understand and overstand that your banking institution, Your banking institution doesn't necessarily mean you well. If you really understand how a banking institution works, when you go, let's say you get your check for the month and it's $10,000, and you go invest your check, or you go place that $10,000 in a bank. Let's say it's BOA. Okay, you go invest your money in BOA, or not invest it, but you put your money in your checking account in BOA. When they take that money from you, this is what they actually do in banks. This is why I recommend people don't leave your money sitting in a checking account. But they take your $10,000. They say, okay, yeah, we'll hold this for you. We got it. Have a good day. We got it. But what they'll do is, because you're not the only one that just came and put some money in their hands. A lot of people did that, centralized. Everybody's coming through and putting their money there. So what they do, they say, okay, we got Sandra's dollars, we got Paul's dollars, we got Jake's dollars. Cool. We got about $100,000 right now just sitting. What do? They know that you're probably not going to come the next day and withdraw that same $10,000 the next day. They got some time. So what do? They take the money that you have sitting in your checking account and they lend it out. They lend it out to other people. This is where loans come from. So when they're loaning people out money, they're loaning people out your money, is what they're doing. They're loaning people your money to make interest off your money. That's how they do what they do. Okay. So I would recommend that people don't leave your money sitting in a checking account, because first of all, it's not doing anything. And all it's doing is giving these institutions, these banking institutions, it's giving them more leverage to have money that they know you're not going to come back for, because we're not even programmed to keep all our money in our pocket. We're programmed to go put our money in the bank. So they know you ain't coming back for the whole thing. You might come out for $20 here and there, $100 here and there, but you're not going to go withdraw all of your money at once. They know this. So they take your money and they lend it out, you know? So when we're looking at these banks, these banking systems, you have to start looking at them differently. And the banking systems will also, I think, collapse over time. They will collapse over time just because of the model in which these banking institutions are working under. They're not sustainable. They're not sustainable at all. So I think that's a lot that I've said so far. So I'll let you, if you like.
Yeah, I want to ask you about these digital currencies that you're talking about. When you talk about us transitioning into an economic system that works and runs on digital currency, does this mean that, okay, so before we had our credit cards, right? We had cash, then we moved slowly into the credit card, which I see as a pseudo transition already into digital currency, because you don't have cash in the hand. You just go and scan your card, swipe your card, right? So I think we've already been transitioned into the digital currency. And then what does the next step look like? How are we shopping in the supermarkets with the digital currencies? How does this economy run?
So when shopping, if it'd be the same way as how you would use like your Apple. I don't have Apple products, but let's say you have an Apple Watch. A lot of people use their Apple phones to do Apple Pay, and they just kind of scan and transact that way. It would be
Mhm.
similar to that. Over here in the Americas, they have like ATMs that are for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency that you can go and do like transactions, through that, and then you'll go wallet to wallet transactions. So if I know you and you're offering a product that I want and you accept cryptocurrency as payment, all I would need is your wallet information and I would just send you the cryptocurrency. And once I send you that cryptocurrency, you could then take, let's say I send you one Ethereum for your services. You have a product, I want to buy it. I send you one Ethereum for your services. You could take that Ethereum, which right now Ethereum is I think around $2,000 right now, because the crypto market did take a dip because of the tariffs that our current administration has done. But anyway, so let's say I give you $2,000, or give you that Ethereum that's worth $2,000. You could take that Ethereum and go cash it out in your local currency if you want to. You can transition that Ethereum into Bitcoin. You can transition into a different coin that you like, whatever the case may be. But it will be yours at that point. And this is why I think that it's extremely important for people to really get a good understanding of what cryptocurrency is and how it works, because I
Mhm.
think that it's also possible. And I don't want, it's not fear mongering, by the way. I want to make sure that nobody's afraid because everything's going to be okay eventually. Okay. If you are of the Most High and you're a good person, everything is going to be fine. But what I will say is that because, like I said earlier, I don't believe that a lot of these people in these fake positions of power, I don't think that they want the people to really win with them. They don't, because they wouldn't be billionaires and trillionaires if all of us are also millionaires, right? Because it wouldn't work like that. I think everyone should have millions of dollars. Everyone should have enough money to live the life that they deserve. Everyone should. But see, they want all of it. No one person should have trillions. Why do you need trillions of this? It's insanity. It's insanity. But because I believe that they don't want the people to win. I believe that the people will be feared into the transition. So what I mean by that is there could potentially be an event, something that happens, maybe like the banking systems, begin to fail, or there's some sort of blackout situation where nobody can access any of their accounts. Here in America, that's already happened. Okay, if people are not aware, here in America, Bank of America and Chase, those banks in particular, have been just closing people's accounts, okay, randomly. Just people can't access their accounts. What they've done, in one example that this guy who was talking to me, they closed his account and they gave him a cashier's check for all the money that was in his account. He goes and takes that cashier's check and tries to go deposit it in a different institution, and they said no. And he was saying that nobody's giving him a reason why they've done this. And this again emphasizes the fact that it's on us as individuals to stay on top of what's going on economically, because that's the one area they do not want us paying attention to, is the economy. They want you paying attention to everything else. Don't pay attention to the money, though. And we have to pay attention to the money. And so if we have a better understanding, because they're not going to tell us, they're not going to tell you, okay, go buy this cryptocurrency right now, go do this right now, because if you do this right now, make a profit, because you're on to what we're doing. Okay, they're not going to tell you that. They're just going to do it. And I believe that it's possible how they do it to make it a standard across the board is that there would have to be some sort of an event to where they come in, they swoop in as the good old fashioned, we're the governor, we're governments, we're the leaders. Here we're going to come and don't worry about the blackout. Don't worry about what's going on with the money, because we have a solution, and the solution is going to be digital currency. And I think that's how they're going to roll it out. But it's going to come after some sort of a significant event to where they're going to come out and say, no, we have the solution. We know how to fix this. We're going to give you guys digital currency. And then they're going to just transition everybody into a form of cryptocurrency, but it's not going to be the form of cryptocurrency that's going to make you a millionaire, okay, or it's going to make you a lot of generational wealth. You would need to be investing in cryptocurrency now before this happens. You would need to be investing in cryptocurrency now to be able to try to follow the money, as I like to tell people who work with me in the realms of the market. I tell them to follow the money. We know these people are no good. We know these people are greedy. We know, right? But we have to be able to get the tools. And I look at money like a tool. I don't chase money. I don't, look at money like a god or anything like that. It's simply a tool for me to be able to do what I need to do for my soul mission and the people that I come into contact with. That is what I need. That's the only reason I require money. But I also, again, don't chase money. I attract money. And so when it comes to attracting money, I put my money where they put in their money. And by they, I mean the big the whales. That's what they say in the market. When you have a person who can like buy $1 million worth of a stock at any given time, which would cause a significant rise of a stock, those are whales. Me, I'm a trader. I trade the markets, but I'm not a whale. I'm not putting up $1 million every trade. So me as a retail trader or an individual trader, I don't have the potential just with my trade to like impact the market. But someone like a Trump does, he can put money in, and so some people with these particular statuses that are corrupted, they shouldn't even be in these status positions, but these people who are there, they have the ability to make those sorts of investments and interjections into the markets that would potentially cause um, significant movements and stuff like that. So I think that it would behooves of people to go ahead and try to get familiar. Don't try, get familiar with cryptocurrency and start looking at what it is, how it works, figuring out which ones have been in the picture the longest. There's one thing about cryptocurrency. I'll give your viewers one platform that they can go to. It's called Uphold. And Uphold is an app that is very user friendly. It's like FDIC insured for up to like $2.5 million. So even if you put your money on Uphold and anything happens, it's FDIC insured. So your money will be fine. But you go on an app like Uphold, right? Or the many other cryptocurrency apps, you would see hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cryptocurrencies. Okay, so as a person who knows nothing about cryptocurrency, it can be very overwhelming when you go into these platforms and see all the different lists. You're like, well, which one do I buy? And so this is why we have to start now reading the white papers. Every cryptocurrency has something called a white paper. If you're looking at a cryptocurrency, you don't have a white paper, you don't need to be investing in that cryptocurrency. You know, you want to look at coins that have utility. You want to look at coins that have good projects behind them. A Trump coin doesn't have a good project behind it. That was a money grab. And he definitely made a lot of money. He made millions off of dropping that coin a few weeks ago. Around the time of his election, he made so much money for what to happen. People went and bought it. I told everyone who I was dealing with, I told them, don't buy that coin. What they do? Some of them went and bought the coin. And what happened? First of all, let's say this. Trump owned 80% of the supply of the coin. If you hear that someone is owning 80% of the coin, you have to take a step back. I mean, what do you mean? Because that's too much ownership. That means you literally decide when it drops at any time. And that's what happened. So people they said, oh, Trump coin. Yeah, let's invest. We're all going to be billionaires. And they did it. And as soon as it pumped up from like $20 to almost $100, and he sold it. He sold it and left everybody who had it holding the bag, as they say, holding the bag full of
known as
nothing.
Trump.
You know,
Known as Trump. He had golden sneakers. I mean, he'll sell you everything. That's one thing you can bet on. He's gonna sell you anything. I saw his rapper sneakers. I thought I remember just laughing and shaking my head and saying, "This guy, honestly, okay." But now I want to ask you something about the crypto because it's a digital thing. You said it's in a wallet. I don't know much about it, and I'm one of those who have to also do a lot of research on the crypto. But there's a wallet, right? Now, you need to have the internet, Wi-Fi, and technology in place in order for your crypto to work, correct?
So to do transfers, you would. Now, yes, the answer is yes. And now there is something called a ledger. A ledger is it looks like but I don't want to take too much time trying to find it, but it's somewhere around here. But there's a ledger. It looks like a little UBS port, like a little not UBS,
Like a
USB.
USB stick?
Yeah.
Something like this. Okay. You still have to plug it onto something, right? It can't work manually. So if you're somewhere, okay, let's say you go to a supermarket and they have a blackout, you can't buy anything.
Essentially, that's what it would sound like. Yeah, that's what it would sound like if there's a loss of power, then that's what we're dealing with. But at the same time, you're also dealing with the same scenario with the current banking institutions, like people are seeing here in the Americas. They can shut it down at any time. And if you read the fine prints in a lot of these banks, if the bank collapses, the bank collapses. I mean, they sorry to tell you, but that's what they can do if they wanted to. You know what I'm saying? What we have to look at is would the oligarchs, the whales, would they be investing? Just take a look at how much money these people are investing into cryptocurrency. If they're putting all their money there, then it's unlikely that they would crash it or do anything to where something like that would occur. Because I think in order for there to be a worldwide situation where you don't have any Wi-Fi or anything like that, I don't think that that would happen until I don't think they would it would I don't think that it would I think something like that would happen before we do the transition, as I stated, because there would need to be an event that makes people say, okay, please government, come save us. Like, what should we do? So there should be an event like that. But afterwards, I don't think that they would do it. I don't think that there would be a scenario to where if there's no power or anything like that, I don't think that that would be the case. But that essentially is what you're dealing with. But there is a USB port that you called a ledger, and you can insert that into your computer and transfer and hold your cryptocurrencies there manually. And if you have it manually, then there is a way that you can do it manually as long as you have your device. But again, these are things, and how it sounds, as a person who's very old school, I get how this sounds to people. I do. Because people are like, well, at least with my money, I can, like, go in my pocket and pull out my money, and have it right here. But if this money that you're pulling out of your pocket, right? You pulling this money out of your pocket, if this ain't worth nothing, this ain't worth nothing either. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if the dollar collapses and you have a whole bunch of the dollar, you know what I'm saying? What you gonna do with it? If the value of the dollar decreases, what you gonna do with it? So what we have here, beautiful people, is we have a situation of do you want to take this pill or do you want to take this one? Because at the end of the day, we're going to have to barter with one another, and because we're living under capitalistic societies, capitalistic systems. Because that's the case, we're going to have to just follow the money, because again, if let's just say everything just hits the fan economically, you're screwed either way. Okay, so for now, we'll follow the money. They're investing so much money into cryptocurrency, with the one coin called and this, again, I'm not plugging any of these coins, but I'm just there's a coin called XRP, and XRP has been around for a long time, and there is a lot going on with XRP. And as a long-term XRP holder myself, I have been through the ebbs and flows of holding that coin. But there's two cryptocurrencies that have ETFs, okay, which are traded on the stock market. The two cryptocurrencies that currently have ETFs associated are the two highest priced cryptocurrencies right now, which would be Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin and Ethereum both have ETFs. Guess which coin?
Mm-hmm. What is an ETF?
It's a fund. So it's essentially a fund on the asset. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Ethereum and Bitcoin have ETFs. Okay, so they have the ETF. Guess what's in the court right now to be the next coin to have an ETF? XRP. Okay, XRP is on the list where they're looking right now in the courts to see whether or not XRP can be listed on the stock market exchange, the same way the two highest costing cryptocurrencies are right now are on the stock exchange, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum. These are the things, as people of the light, we have to be able to identify. Okay, cool. So, because right now XRP is, I think, trading at maybe like $2.50. I got in on Ethereum. I mean, I got in on XRP when it was like 20 cents. Okay, but it was a long, long journey holding that coin because it was going up, it was going down. There was lawsuits from XRP, which is also called Ripple. Those two are so associated. Ripple and XRP were in court against the SEC over here in America about whether or not XRP was a security or not. So there's been a lot of legality surrounding XRP. But who's investing heavily in XRP? The current administration, all of them, everyone who's in his crew, They're all investing in XRP. Why? Why? Because it's a high potential that it's going to have an ETF, which means that $2, Bitcoin was $2 at one point. I need people to get this. Bitcoin cost $2 at one point. Okay. It is now $80,000. The highest that it's gone is above $100,000. So these are the sorts of things that we could be doing with our money, just following the money instead of just putting it in the checking account and letting it do nothing for you. You do have the option to put it somewhere where you could I'm not saying everything, but you could put something in these projects just in case, we do have this fall or the fall of the dollar and in ushering in of a new economic system, which could be digital. If that
Yeah.
answered your question, I don't even,
Yeah,
sometimes
you did, because I mean, you've answered, yeah, you have answered it. And my thing is, there's nothing wrong in diversifying your portfolio. You don't have to put all your life savings into it. You can put that extra money you save, just something small, if you think it's something for you. Because I have to tell you, Zoti, I'm old school as well. I understand the cash people, because they know $10 is $10. You know what I mean? Because when you go when you go and buy, like, if let's say you had $5 in your hand and you wanted to go buy a coffee and you walked in, you get $5 cash and you got the coffee for $5, right? But when you use all these different digital methods like your card or whatever, there's a commission. You pay maybe a percentage for the transaction, so your $5 coffee is $5 and some change. So, they don't say this. You think, oh, I just paid $5. No, you did not. You paid $5 and some change. There's also a transaction fee for using your card, which you don't have when you have your cash, under the mattress grandma, she had her $100. It was $100. She bought her sheets or whatever she bought for the value of $100. But when we use the digital, the credit cards or whatever we pay extra. People don't think about that. There's a transaction fee, there's a percentage on it. So your $5 coffee is $5 and some. Your grocery that you pay is not, the person who paid cash paid $20. When you used your card, you paid $20 and something. So, you're paying more. It actually costs you more to use these different methods of transactions, the digital ones, because someone has to maintain the system. You have to get a new card, there are transaction fees, there's service fees and all that stuff. So I get the cash people, a little bit.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I'm like, I'm very old school. Like I'm a pen I would rather write down stuff on paper and a pen than type it out. I'm just very old school that way. So I totally get it. I really do. But I do want to mention that there
Yeah.
is something called a stable coin. So
Mm.
I want to mention this because this is how they would transition people. They would transition people because they're already working on, if you go into the cryptocurrency exchanges, you'll see that there's a USD coin, US dollar coin. Why? If this is not something that they're planning to implement, why did they go out of their way to create a USD coin? So the USD coin would be a stable coin. So it won't change its value this based on buying and selling essentially. So how Bitcoin can go up some days it'll go down. So if I gave you a Bitcoin, if I say, you know what, I'm gonna give you a Bitcoin, gave you one Bitcoin, that Bitcoin will be worth $80,000 today, maybe $90,000 tomorrow, so on and so forth. It's up to you to sell a portion. You don't have to sell your whole Bitcoin, by the way, or you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin, by the way. You can buy $20 of Bitcoin, you can buy $100 of Bitcoin, you can sell 50,000 of Bitcoin. It's up to you. You don't have to sell the whole coin in its entirety. You can sell portions of the coin. But with a stable coin, it's not that way. It's stable. That's what a stable coin is. So I believe that's how they're going to transition. I want to make that clear. They're not going to transition you into a crypto coin that's going to profit you. They're going to transition it dollar to dollar. So that's what I believe they're going to do. If you had, let's say, 50K sitting in your checking account, they're going to
Interesting.
transition that 50K dollar to dollar to, now you're going to have 50,000 USDC coin is what you're going to have. which is going to stay that same 50,000. I put my 50,000 though in Bitcoin. Okay. I put my 50,000 in XRP. I put my 50,000 in XLM. I put my 50,000 in HBAR. That's what I put my 50,000 in. So while your 50,000 is going to be not yours, because you're going to be wealthy and abundant, but if a person's 50,000, right, is going from 50,000 in cash to 50,000 USD. That's what they're going to transition. It's going to be your dollars to a stable coin. My $50,000 investment into a different coin that they don't want you to know about. They don't want you investing into anything that's going to really make you a lot of money. My 50,000 is going to turn into 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. That's what my $50,000 investment is going to turn, because I wasn't leaving my money. My money, I'm going to tell you now, my money's not sitting in no checking account. I don't keep nothing in my checking account besides my bills. My bill money that comes out automatically, I make sure that's there. Everything else, I'm investing. That's just what I do with my money. Personally, I just invest my money. That's just what I do. And I invest my money in the same investments that the whales are investing their money into. That's what
Right.
I that's what I
Zoti,
do.
yeah, Zoti, you've said something so, so interesting. When you said that they're going to do one to one, I think we have seen this before in Germany when the Deutschmark transitioned into the euro. So in Europe, back in the day, there was the French francs and then there was the Deutschmark. Everyone had their own individual currencies before they transitioned into the euro. Now, different countries had stronger currencies than the others. But when they transitioned, it was one to one. And I remember the Germans were very pissed off because they felt like their Deutschmark, which was very strong, had been devalued. So this is how I'm hearing what you're saying. This is interesting because you may hear one to one, but there could be a devaluation process happening through there. And I got to thinking of the German situation because I remember they were very pissed about the one to one because now their economy their money was, you had maybe so much in Deutschmark, but now you had almost nothing, the equivalent to someone in a country that had a way lower currency. It was just flattened. Then you mentioned the US coin. And then earlier on, you had also mentioned the Russia and China moving away from the US dollar. And it got me thinking about the formation of the BRICS countries, where you have Brazil. So BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Yeah, I think I've covered all of them. And these BRICS have been talking about having their own currency. So Zoti, Zoti, Zoti. You see, you're helping us connect the dots here. Now,
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful,
go
beautiful,
on.
beautiful connection right there. Absolutely. Because that is so important that I love that you know about that. That makes my heart smile because we, as good people, we need to make sure we get our foot in this money pool, okay, that we need to, because we need to be able to build our generational wealth and do what we need to do. And we need the tools to be able to do that. So I love that you know about the BRICS. And the BRICS is and basically in opposition of the G7, which used to be the G8, right? So the G7, right, is pretty much the opposition, the opposing to the BRICS, And so, I mean, how I see it, but I think that there's huge, huge implications when we're talking about BRICS. Huge, and what they plan to do and how they want to team up and how they want to do things. This is directly connected to the economy across the board. And so, yes, that one-to-one transition is how I think they're going to do it. Because again, they don't want regular old people like us. Not that we're regular, we're extraordinary, but these people in these fake positions of power, they don't want you pulling up to the same resort that they're at. Okay, they don't want these things, right? Not that we want to be at the same resort they're at, because we probably want to be someplace else. But my point is, they don't because that's the case, they do a one-to-one. They do a one-to-one stablecoin transition. Like I said, you can look now and see that there's USD coin on these cryptocurrency exchanges, um, which to me is very indicative of their intention. And again, the amount of money, just simply the amount of money that these institutions are investing into cryptocurrency is amazing. It's really, really, really high. If you look at, for example, one of the coins that I mentioned, um, if you look at H bar, for example, which is Hedera, if you look at Hedera H bar, which has been around for a while, that's probably in the, I want to say maybe 20-cent range around there right now, which is super
How do you
affordable
spell it, Hedera? How do you spell the Hedera coin?
So Hede Hedera. Hold on, let me write it because sometimes Hedera. I promise I went to college. Hedera.
Okay, Hedera. Okay.
Okay. But the ticker, how you would look at it, like the ticker symbol would be H and then bar. So H bar, like a bar of chocolate. But if you go on their website, when you're looking into cryptocurrencies to try to see, okay, which ones are good, because as an investor into cryptocurrency, maybe you don't want to jump into Bitcoin because you feel like you kind of already missed the run. Like you want to put your money where you could really kind of see a return, like 100x return or five, you want to see that kind of return on your investment. You can go to these coins that you're finding on these exchanges and go to their websites. HBAR, Hedera, if you go to their website, beautiful white paper, beautiful program. I think that it's a promising project. And they also have something called a board of directors. If you look at their board of directors, the people who are on their board in terms of people who sit at the table when they're talking about what they're talking about, you have, if you go look at that list, you have people who Boeing, Google, all of these people, all these companies and stuff are invested in these coins, some of them. Okay, so Hedera H bar is just one of them. So I would recommend people to go to the actual coins website. Don't just go on a platform and just buy because I said to buy. Don't just go on a platform and buy because Bill told you to. You should be doing your own investigations to see
Yeah.
what coins actually yield you a return. And one of the things you want to look at is the white papers. You want to look at on the board, right? Because if you have Google and Boeing sitting on the board of a coin, that's called following the money. That's what that's called. These are trillion-dollar, billion-dollar, trillion-dollar companies, you know. And so essentially, and a coin like HBAR Hedera is considered it's considered an altcoin, an alternative coin. But I don't want to get too deep into all of that. But
No why.
yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't know, you may just be sharing an example. People think, oh, she's telling us to do that. No, you do your own research. Yeah.
This is not financial advice. None of this is financial advice at all whatsoever. I don't, because I'm telling you, I have done that before. I have gone in and bought something because somebody told me to, and it didn't go in my favor. But I am so grateful and
Yeah.
just so grateful that I was able to recover. Okay. So do not do that. Okay. Do your research, do your research and find out, first of all, what is cryptocurrency? And maybe even before doing that, what is this dollar you have in your pocket? Where'd that come from? Figure that out first. How was this established? Because people are so hesitant when we're talking about cryptocurrency. And I get that. I do get it. I get it. But you guys, it's only because if you were born into a system where this was already the case, it wouldn't be something you think twice about. We were born into the system where these dollars was the case, so we didn't think twice about it. But when you actually go and look into it, you'll find a lot of it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. None of it makes sense. So I think a lot of the reservations that people have about cryptocurrencies because we're just so used to, like you said, that having the $10 is $10, you have it in your hands and so on and so forth. But I think
Yeah,
that
I
it's
get it. We get
yeah.
it. Trust me, listeners, we get it. But there is an economic change taking place right now. We are in transition. And Zoti, I think we have been transitioning for a minute. When I look back, I think there has been a gradual transitioning. And it got me thinking about, do you think we can achieve economic change, whatever that may look like, without dismantling the existing structures? Or do you think that the way this structure and system is built, we just need a complete overhaul? You know what I mean?
I think that we do need a complete overhaul. I do think we need a complete overhaul. But I don't think that we're going to have a situation where you're going to wake up and there's just going to be no dollar, you know? It's going to still be there. It's just going to be devalued. It's going to be devalued. And as you talked about with the one-to-one uh, transferring, that's another thing people have to be wary about. Not wary. That's another thing that people have to pay attention to is if you got again the example we gave earlier, if you have $50,000 in your checking account, they do a one-to-one, but the dollar devalued 20%. Now your
Mm-hmm.
$50,000 is only $30,000. You know what I mean? Now you don't, and then they're gonna look at you like, well, I mean, meanwhile, the price of everything's still going up. I don't know if eggs cost $16 where you are, but
No, it does
they're
not. I'm gonna
oh,
tell
really?
you something. We don't know how y'all are surviving with those prizes. We don't know how y'all do it. We are knocking on wood every day. We are constantly living from a place of gratitude because we do not pay
You know.
$16 for eggs. No, we do not.
It's because I think they say it's because of the bird flu that's going on, and that's why that's happening. There's a bird flu thing happening right now, and that's what they're saying the reason for. I don't eat eggs all the time, so I'm not affected by, you know, so on. But the point is that there is definitely an overhauling that's going to have to happen. But like I said, you're not going to wake up and the dollars are just going to be they're just going to disappear, right? People are going to still have them, but they're just not going to be worth the same as they were before. It's just not. And it's very possible that if your money's sitting in a checking account right now, it's not safe. It's just not
Yeah,
safe.
yeah,
And we see
yeah.
that happening again right now in America, where two of the biggest banks, Chase and Bank of America, these are the biggest institutions. And I personally don't use them because I just have over the course of my journey have been led not to use these institutions. But the fact that they're closing their customers' accounts randomly and so on is just really telling of the state of
Yeah.
our system.
Economy, yeah. And to all our listeners, if you want to know what it looks like when a bank shuts down or goes bankrupt immediately, go and look at what happened in Greece. Go and look at what happened in Iceland. These things have happened before. So don't ever think that, oh, it can never happen. It's already happened. Okay. It's just that it hasn't happened in your neck of the woods, but it has happened. And the way I look at things, Zoti, is you can learn from other countries. You can learn what has happened to others and see how they dealt with it and how they were paid out. What was the cash out system like? What was the payout system like? I won't tell you what it was like. I want you to go and look for yourself. Then you might take what Zoti is saying a little bit more to heart. Also, when you talked about the devaluation of currencies, this has happened as well in many countries. It has happened in Zimbabwe, where you have to walk with a briefcase of cash to go and buy a loaf of bread because the money has been devalued. Okay, it's happened in Venezuela. We've seen that. It's happened in so many countries have already gone through what Zoti is saying. So it's not far fetched. Maybe Zoti, maybe you can talk to us about this. But I think sometimes, people, especially in the West, they think that not us. It can't happen here. You know, Come on, Faith. That was
We
cute.
we as beautiful human beings all over the world can be arrogant sometimes, can be
Mm,
arrogant to think that if we done seen, they say down here in the South, done, if you done seen, if we done seen, these sorts of things happen as you're stating, in antiquity, then it doesn't, people like to, again, the arrogance think that the buck stops here, where we
mm,
are now in humanity in existence. Okay, it's just, and this can't happen. No, it literally has. Even when we look at certain events, throughout history economically, like the Great Depression, wasn't that long ago, really. Like there probably are people still alive from the aftermath of that. That wasn't too far. Speaking of the Great Depression, where we are right now, when it comes down to the stock bubble that we have here in the stock market, which is global, we are at a point that was higher in terms of the stock bubble, meaning overpriced stocks. Stocks should not be the prices that they are right now. They are overpriced, is what's happened. And again, because of the greed. Okay. So the point that we were at during the time of the Great Depression in terms of where the stock bubble was, back, interestingly, last time the person who was in office now here in America, last time he was in office, people were calling for the decline of the stock market, the crash, like the big crash, like the one that happened back in the early 1900s. People in the markets, one thing we do is we always look at the past. We always look at the past when it comes to the money, because these cycles literally on the charts repeat themselves. Okay. So the last time that this person was in office, people were calling for the market crash because where we were, like this is where the Great Depression peak was, right before it falls down off the cliff, right? So this was the peak. Where we were last time he was in office was like right here. So people were like, oh, we're coming close. This crash is coming. Like it's definitely got to be coming now. Where we are now that he's back in, it's just interesting how, again, the cycles. He's back in. We're higher than we were at the time of the Great Depression. So people are really calling for the crash now. People are really calling for the crash because they're like, there's no way that this can just keep, people, that's what people who are in the markets are thinking, you know. So the idea that we have to be paying attention to what's happened before, like you said, studying what's happened before, how did people handle it, so on and so forth. A lot of what's happening right now is very similar to the pre-Great Depression. A lot of it, like literally where we are on the charts, we're above where we were at that time. The whole inaction of the tariffs, all of this, all of the things that that the person who's in office right now is doing was what was happening during the time of the Great Depression. I would encourage the people who are watching, since we're talking about the economy, look at the things that were happening around the time of the Great Depression. It's like they literally took a picture and copied and pasted to what's happening right now. Like the prices of goods went up crazy. There were tariffs that were put on in place. There were all of these things, like the same thing was happening. So, and then, we did a lot of transitioning economically after that happened, and that's when the economy went back up. We had the boom, so on and so forth. So I think that it's not far-fetched. Like you said, it's really not far-fetched. I get that it's uncomfortable, but in this great turning of the ages that we are in, sometimes it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but there's great reward in being uncomfortable sometimes. When we're going to accomplish our goals, it ain't comfortable all the time. We all know that. We all know that when we go to try to make a dream come true, it's not always comfortable. You're going to have rejections. You're going to have, things that may not go right. You're going to have, maybe you're doing it alone. You have a large load to carry. So the uncomfortability is not what we should be fearing. We should be fearing the ignorance is what we should be fearing. Being uncomfortable is way better than being ignorant to something that could potentially have the ability to impact your financial future, not only for you, but for your lineage and for the generations to come after you. Because another thing that we have to start doing, that I vowed to do, is to stop thinking about just me right now. I vowed to think about the generations that haven't gotten here yet. That's how I live my life now. I'm grateful to have what I need right here in this moment. I have everything that I need. Now, what I'm going to be doing and working on is for the generations to come after me. That's really, really what it is. So we have to start looking at these times that, these events, these circumstances. And when you do that, you'll see, wow, we're like literally mirroring down to who's in office. It's like a replay, because the same thing, if you were in cryptocurrency around the last time this individual was in office, the same types of things are happening with the crypto market. The same types of things. It went up, then it went down, and it went down a lot. And that's something called a shakeout. So they decrease the price. The whales, they sell their positions because they're already in profit. They sell their positions to shake people out because they know something's coming on the upside. So they'll sell their positions, which causes a panic for everybody else who's retail, like, the little people. We start to panic because we don't have millions of dollars invested. We just had our $20,000 that we had saved and invested. So we're not trying to lose, right? So we're going to sell our positions, and that's called a shakeout. So they shake people out, and then they, shake people out, and then they go ahead and skyrocket the price of the cryptocurrency. And that's similar to what happened the last time he was in office. And I know that that's what happened last time he was in office. And I remember it because I was one of the ones who got shook out, and I sold, and I shouldn't have sold. I sold my
That,
position. I was in
yeah.
profit, and the things that I speak about is based on my experience, so especially when it comes to economics, I'm very transparent when it comes down to it. I sold my position in a particular coin, and I was in profit, but I was in profit maybe like I went from being in profit probably like 15 grand. Then they did the shakeout. I was excited. I was like, oh, 15 grand plus my original investment. I was excited, And this was just on one coin. I was like, okay, I'm holding it. Then they did a shakeout. They shook. And I got that 15,000 in profit. I remember seeing it was probably like maybe down to $3,000 in profit. Like I held as long as I felt I could, but I was like, I don't want to just not make anything. So I sold. And literally the next week,
It went back up.
not only did it go back up, but it went up a lot. So I was, again, grateful that I was able to make $3,000. That's a great return for what I invested, but it could have been a lot more, is my point. And uh, it's funny because I know that that's what they did last time. And so right now crypto fell, it's been falling. It's been falling. Like Bitcoin went from 100 and something K a couple weeks ago. Now it's in the 80,000 right now, which is still a lot. Okay. But you know how many people that probably shook out? That probably shook out. When people saw who were investing into cryptocurrency, when they saw it go from 100K, over 100K to down to 80, and this guy's talking about tariffs, that's a shakeout. But because I've been here before, like literally the same situation, same person in office, same thing. Yeah, I'm not selling that position this time. We're going to hold it until it's time to sell it. That's what we're going to do this time around. But how interesting it is if they say life's a stage and this is all kind of a projected reality and stuff like that, all this kind of these ideologies that people have that I would be in line with to some degree. You can just create how you want to live your life. And that transitions me to one of the things you said we were going to discuss, which was the achieving the true freedom, which is I think directly connected to the health of your economic health in your individual life. And I personally have nature's wealth personally, and I'm very grateful to be able to have nature's wealth. And nature's wealth is, in my opinion, the ability to be able to do whatever my soul wants to do when I wake up in the morning. I wake up and I can decide if I want to go make a YouTube video if I want to go have a conversation with a beautiful lady in Europe, if I want to go, wash my car, if I want to make avocados, whatever I want to do, I can literally do it. What I think that a lot of people miss is that we've been programmed to associate freedom with a dollar amount. And again, as we talk about the economy, and I hope I've driven the point home that I'm serious about my economic health. At the same time, I know that true freedom isn't about the amount of money that you have. It's not about the dollar necessarily, or the monetary perspective of it. Again, these are tools, but the actual freedom is to be able to be able to choose what it is you want to do on any given day, to answer the calling of your soul. That's true freedom. That's true wealth. Because a lot of people are actually slaves to money, believe it or not. A lot of people are slaves to it. Even people who are extremely wealthy they become addicted and they are slaves to it. I know a couple people in my personal life who are doing very well, millionaires, but they're all they do. I can call them at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. What are you doing? I'm just working. All right, I'll talk to you later because I don't know why you're still working at 9 o'clock at night. You know what I'm saying? 11 o'clock at night, unless you're just a night owl and you prefer to work at night. But this person I'm describing, he works all day, every day. Like, it's very rare for me to call him and he's like, oh, just kicking back, reading a book or just sitting watching the birds fly. Like, no. And his mentality is he's got to keep going. He's got to keep getting to the money, got to keep, so, and I look at him, like, he has the money in his account for sure. I know he does for sure. But is he really free? So when you're making certain investments, like in cryptocurrency, when you trade the market, when you do certain things, ability to not only obtain the tools that you need, which is the money, but you don't have to be a slave to it. You don't have to be a slave to it. I have my money in places where it's just making money for me. My money is working for me. I don't, and again, I believe that we are supposed to be attracting things. We don't chase anything. You just attract things and you just go ahead and put your intentions in certain areas, So I put my money where I intend to grow my money. And then I just go about my merry way in my free life. You know what I mean? And that's what it's been working pretty well for me so far, and I am a registered nurse. That's my profession. I went to college for nursing and I specialize in ICU, ER. I've done all the units besides NICU because I can't stand to see the babies. I can't do it. I can't stand to see the babies crying and all of that. I don't. And then I don't do OBGYN because I saw a woman give birth one time in clinical and it almost passed out because I thought it was, and I have a strong stomach, but it was a lot to witness. But my point is with all of that is I'm a traveling nurse and, one of my professions, I would say I went to college for, and I was a traveling nurse and I could make well over $100,000 if I go hard being a traveling nurse. But I was able to say, you know what? I don't like how I'm being treated. I don't feel appreciated. I don't feel valued. I'm overworked. Even making 100K as a traveling nurse, you're underpaid. I promise you, you are. And I speak on behalf of all nurses. We are underpaid, grossly underpaid. We're doing most of the work. Okay, the
Yes.
doctors are there, but we're
Yes.
doing most of the work. A lot of the times we're the ones finding issues in the patients and all of that. Going back to tell the doctor, you need to prescribe this. And they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. And they'll do it. So nurses are underpaid and undervalued for sure. And, I was able to say, I'm good. I'm all right. I'm going to go ahead and walk out. The day that I walked away from my last nursing position, it was because a gentleman who was my supervisor, he didn't like something that I did. Well, all I did is try to solve a problem, but he had an ego issue. I was able to find out he had an ego issue in the fact that a woman came and said something about a problem, and then furthermore, I went to solve the problem, and I kind of went above him to solve the problem, but the problem got solved. But after that, he began to show clear signs of a bruised ego, clear signs of a bruised ego against me. And I honestly didn't do anything. All I did was try to solve a problem. And that was the last time I clocked in. I told her, I was like, you know what, I'm good. I'm just going to go ahead and go elsewhere. I'm going to go elsewhere. And my ability to be able to invest my money in certain places, to be able to understand and overstand the economy and how to do that, I could walk away from a 100K career and still make that, if not more, a year, no problem. And I don't even have to do as much. And I don't have to be undervalued. I don't have to be underappreciated. I don't have to do any of that. I could still just be, I could be myself and still do the same type of service. I help people all the time in the field of medical. People call me all the time, like, hey, I got this going on. Okay, go get you this, 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 and this. You know what I'm saying? So I'm still doing my nursing, but I'm going to do it in my way. I'll help people with my intellect and my skill my way. Now, I'm not going to do it in a sense because the way the way that they're trying to decentralize currency, they should decentralize medicine as well. If you ask me, they should decentralize medicine so that you can, I should be able to go as a nurse go serve my neighbor if my neighbor is having a medical emergency. If they want me to come help them with my skill set and I can provide my license and my credentialing and they want to help me, if they want me to help them, I should be able to go do that. You know what I'm saying? They can compensate me for it and so on, but they want to try to tell you you can't do that. They're like, you have to centralize healthcare, which is another scam. You know what I mean? If you ask me. But I digress. So,
No, it was a very good digression. We let spirit flow because there's a reason for everything. And when you were talking about the person who had an ego trip, there's so many people like that, and I think we want to say a big thank you to that person because of you and your ego trip, and because of you and your attitude and your behavior, your bad manners in the workplace, and discouraging someone from helping someone and for going above and beyond to do something from the heart. Because of everything you did, now we get to meet Zoti. Okay, so thank you so much. We want to give a warm thank you, from Europe, from all our listeners in Africa, from all our listeners in the Americas, in Japan, in India, for you bringing this side out of her, for allowing her to recognize her true self and say, thank you, but no thank you. And now I'm going to do this. And now here we are sitting in 2025, celebrating all this knowledge and having a wonderful conversation. So thank you. And to all our listeners, if anyone has ever treated you less than, abused you, insulted your skills, your talents, treated you in the most inhumane way, used the flying monkey kind of modality in the workplace, bad mouthing you and doing all that. And now you got to meet the brightest, the sharpest, the most beautiful people. Remember to thank them. Because without that catalyst, Zoti, my mother always said everything works together for the good. And this was a wonderful catalyst for us to meet today. So, we always want to give gratitude, even to those who have paved the path with rocks and pebbles and thorns, because you still walked over it and came out shining brighter than ever. So please, if you ever meet that person on the street, buy them a coffee and tell them thank you.
I love that. Thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for saying that.
Yeah.
That's absolutely true. I'm in agreement with that. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And now we are slowly going to head out. We have one leg out the door. And Zoti, I want to thank you so much for coming, but I want you to share anything that we might have not discussed that you'd like to touch on. And I know that in our last share, you introduced us to a brilliant gentleman known as Nelly Fuller, and all his wonderful teachings, and he had a very unique perspective on economics. So he recently transitioned, correct?
Yes. Yes, he
Yes.
did. He did.
Maybe in
And
honor of him, or just, as parting words, you'd like to share something that this wonderful teacher has shared with us to bring us to this point.
so the last time that I was here and I spoke about Neely Fuller, who I had the honor of speaking to years ago, back when I was probably like 20, 21. I spoke with him, and he, until his last podcast episode, has been sharp. I mean, all the way into his late 90s, is when he transitioned. But when I say he was on that phone talking like sharper than people in their 40s, he was extremely sharp. And I think it had a lot to do with his how he took care of himself, his dedication to education. And he would always say, when someone asked him how he's doing, he would always say, "I'm still learning." That was his response up until his last recording. Is he would always say, people like, "Oh, how you doing, Mr. Fuller? I'm still learning." you know
Mhm.
and so he talked about, like I mentioned before, the 9 areas of human activity, and understanding these 9 areas of human activity as a system. And if you don't understand this system, and how this system works, is what he said, is that everything else will only confuse you. Okay. So
Mhm.
understanding and overstanding the 9 areas of human activity and how they work as a system has to be understood and overstood, I think, as a foundation for people to really be able to function within this system properly. Um, and he was very, very, I think I'll say, again, I would encourage people. There's a channel called Produce Justice on YouTube, and it has a ton of his like interviews and stuff that anyone can go and check out at any
Mhm.
time. But what I will say is, because he always emphasized at the beginning of every conversation the importance of learning,
Mhm.
still learning, we have to seek out the correct information, okay, when we're learning. That's a part of the learning process, because
Mhm.
miseducation leads to misguided action.
Mm.
Okay. So if we're being miseducated and misinformed, that's going to lead to us having misguided action and responses to what we have been given. So if
Mhm.
we're being given information that is not accurate, then we're going to have actions that are not in line with what reality, what's actually happening. So it is really, really crucial for us to focus on the process of learning, making sure that we're learning something new every day. I'm sure everybody has heard that term, learn something new every day, really though, because it's really not hard. And if you're not learning something new
Not at all.
no, it's not. Like, if you're not learning something every day, then I would encourage the beautiful people, if that's the case for anyone watching, where you're like, I don't learn something new every day, I would encourage you to maybe expand who you're talking to, the type of people that you're talking to, the type
Mhm.
of environment that you're around, what you're
Mhm.
watching on the television, and all these types of things. I would recommend you take a deep look at that, because if you're saying that you're not learning something new every day, then you're probably not where you need to be in terms of where your focus and attention is, because you really should. You could go outside and take a walk and probably learn something. You see a bird
Exactly.
fly by, but the bird, what kind of bird was that? you
It's
know
not
so
that
really,
difficult, actually.
so
Yeah.
that's what I will say in honor of Neely Fuller, is just too, it's too vast in depth to kind of talk about on a whim. That's why I would want people. He has a book called The Compensatory Concept that people could go check out, and then he has the podcast stuff, and there's a website called producejustice.com that people can go to get his works if you want to do that. But to honor him, I will say, stay learning, stay learning like he did. And so his last interview that he did, which wasn't too long ago, he in that last podcast, he said even then that he was still learning. So we're going
Yes.
to and he wasn't doing well. He was ill, but even still then, and I think that could really um honor him if we at least did that. Sought out information, seek to find information, and then take the information that we are receiving and be able to compute that in our minds so that we can act constructively and productively every day that we are existing amongst each other.
Yeah. That was so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Those are beautiful parting words. I mean, we should never stop learning. I think when you stop learning, what does that say? You're ready to bounce. And even then, I think learning continues even when we transition. I don't know if it ever stops. But yeah, so Zoti, thank you, thank you, thank you so much for today's share. I really, really loved this. I enjoyed it tremendously. I think our listeners will, at least I hope so. And I also hope that this message will be received as intended. It's very, very important, people, to do your research, and the economic change is here. It's just, I guess, what he's telling us in a nutshell: how will you position yourself? you know.
Correct.
So, with that said, I want to thank you all for stopping by. As always, all information will be in the description. So, there you will find Zoti's bio, all her links, and how you can connect with her. So, go in there and take a look, see whatever floats your boat, see whatever interests you or not, but just take a look. You never know what might pique your interest and guide you into your own journey. And yeah, that will be all. Always do your research, question everything, and enjoy life. Until next time, goodbye.
Evenings come, stars a twinkle, dinner on the stove. We talk about our dreams and plans, the future we both hope.